Every 4 years, 32 of the best men's and 24 of the best women's soccer teams in the world compete in the largest sporting event on the planet, the FIFA World Cup, with the women's tournament always happening 1 year after the men's. The United States women's national soccer team has just won its fourth World Cup this past Sunday and its second in a row. The U.S. ladies played the Netherlands on Sunday afternoon in Lyon, France, competing in their third World Cup final in the past 3 tournaments, something that had never been done before. The U.S. men's team, on the other hand, couldn't even qualify for the World Cup last year in Russia. However, the men's soccer team in the U.S. and male players globally get paid significantly more than the women. This inequality in earnings has caused quite the debate over the last few weeks as the tournament has progressed. After the World Cup final game on Sunday, U.S. captain Megan Rapinoe was asked about the pay gap in soccer.
So there's been a lot of talk about prize money.
Yeah,
you guys won
not
now,
enough.
Yeah. So that's my question. How much should it be in relation to the men, and how should FIFA decide? Should it be based on television viewership, on something else?
I don't know. I don't think I'm smart enough to be answering those questions. It certainly should be more, and I think that, I don't even know how to answer that question, but I think there needs to be a big investment made in the women's game. So maybe for once, like, God forbid we be overpaid.
So why do male players get paid so much more? Is it because the United States Soccer Federation is sexist? Or maybe FIFA has a clear bias towards rewarding men? The answer is actually pretty straightforward. The overwhelming factor that determines athlete pay is entertainment value, not sex. At the end of the day, athletes are simply entertainers, no different than musicians or actors. However, there's one huge distinction in athletics that causes a discrepancy between male and female pay that does not exist in the music or movie business. It all comes down to the level of competition on the field. In the music and movie business, the highest paid individuals are generally the most adored in their respective industries. Now, is Christian Bale an objectively better actor than Lindsay Lohan? Or is Whitney Houston an objectively better singer than Lil Pump? Obviously, the answer is yes. But when comparing among similar talent levels, say Christian Bale and Meryl Streep, or Whitney Houston and Elvis Presley, gender has almost no influence on the amount of value and money these entertainers can earn. It is solely based on how much people will pay to see them. And that is the key to this whole debate. People pay to watch men's soccer and men's sports in general over women's mainly because the talent level on the field is objectively higher. The first 2 Women's World Cup tournaments in 1991 and 1995 only consisted of 12 teams. It has since grown to 24 teams and is potentially going up to 32 teams in 2023. However, most countries throughout the world do not support women as much as the United States does, and the global talent level for women's soccer at this point is pretty poor. Realistically, teams like Thailand, who lost to the United States 13-0 in the group stage this year, Jamaica, or South Africa have no business competing in the World Cup. But since the global talent pool is so shallow due to the lack of opportunities most countries give their women, it affects the tournament severely since the standard to qualify is set so low. When looking at the numbers, we can see that this is the case. Last year, the Men's World Cup in Russia generated FIFA $6 billion in revenue. Yes, that's billion with a B. For comparison, the last Women's World Cup in Vancouver 4 years ago generated only $73 million. Regarding prize payouts, the Men's World Cup teams in 2018 split a prize pool of $400 million, with the winning France team earning a cool $38 million. That means 6.7% of revenue was paid out in prize money, and that the Cup winner France took home 0.63% of total revenue earned by the tournament. This year, the Women's World Cup in France is expected to generate anywhere from $100 to $150 million, with a predetermined prize pool of $30 million and the winning team to earn 13% of the pie and collect $4 million. Using a median amount of $125 million for the $100 to $150 million potential revenue pool, that means the prize pool makes up 24% of revenue and that the winning team's purse makes up 3.2%. This means on a percentage basis, the winner of the Women's World Cup makes more than 5 times as much as the Men's World Cup winner does. Now, obviously, anyone would gladly take $38 million over $4 million. However, anyone with an elementary understanding of business or basic math in general should understand that it is impossible to pay people more than you make in revenue. To even the prize pool gap, FIFA would have to pay $275 million more than the entire tournament even generates in revenue. So when Megan Rapinoe says,
Something else?
I don't know. I don't think I'm smart enough to be answering those questions.
she without a doubt is smart enough, but is being willfully ignorant to the fact that the adoration for the women's game in countries other than the US just isn't at the same level of the men's game yet. Also, it is important to note that with a tournament of this magnitude generating so little for FIFA, it is likely that the money generated from the Men's World Cup is used to help fund the Women's World Cup, and that the Women's World Cup is more than likely a net loss for FIFA since it is such a huge global production. So, in conclusion, it is not sexism that is causing the pay gap in international soccer. It is simply just that the Men's World Cup is significantly more popular around the world at this moment. Another thing many people, including the media specifically, fail to realize is that professional sports teams foster a very deep emotional connection with people. These emotional connections are built over long periods of time through the triumphs and the hardships of watching your team succeed or just come up short. Keep in mind the Women's World Cup was first held not even 30 years ago in 1991. In comparison, the first Men's World Cup took place almost a century ago in 1930. Time is an essential factor in growing a sport, and to see that the Women's World Cup has become so popular in such a short time frame shows huge progress towards equality between the men and women's competition. Over the past 3 years, the USWNT has generated more revenue for the US Soccer Federation than the men, and the women's home jersey is now the top-selling soccer uniform ever sold by Nike in a single season. The women's national team is also smashing all kinds of rating records on television and seemingly one-upping themselves every tournament. I have no doubt in my mind that the women's game will continue to grow exponentially as time goes on and as countries begin to focus more on giving women the opportunity to succeed. This larger global talent pool will increase the skill level in the game and will put on a much more competitive display in the future. As more seats are filled, the pay gap will narrow, and FIFA will have the ability to increase the prize pool for the women. But to ask for equal pay at this point in time is pretty ridiculous, and as we saw earlier, literally impossible. Now, will the prize pool ever be the same as the men's? Maybe. Only time will tell. But what this US women's national team has been able to accomplish for their sport and for young women domestically and globally has been astonishing to watch and should not be discredited. The men's team may have had a 60-year head start, but the women's team is definitely running faster at this point. Congratulations to the 2019 US women's national team, and let's get that 5th star in 2023.